You know, when you're younger, people keep telling you to be patient. Good things take time, they say, and I believe them. I really did. So I waited, calmly, proudly even. I thought patience was wisdom. I thought rushing was immaturity. If something didn't happen this year, well, next year would do. There was no panic in me, no urgency. And that's important because nothing felt wrong. Life looked fine from the outside. Bills were paid. Days were full. But looking back now, that quiet confidence, that was the most dangerous phase of my life, because time doesn't argue with you, it doesn't warn you, it just keeps going. I used to admire myself for waiting. I'd say, I'm not impulsive, I'm thinking long term. Sounds responsible, doesn't it? But here's the thing no one tells you. Patience only works when time is actually on your side. And there's a moment, you don't feel it when it happens, when time quietly switches teams. Suddenly, it's not supporting you anymore, it's moving ahead without you, still polite, still silent. I remember saying no to opportunities because the timing wasn't right. I remember delaying conversations because there's no rush. Each delay felt small, reasonable. But time doesn't measure life in intentions. It measures it in actions taken or avoided. There was no big mistake, no dramatic failure. That's why this story is hard to explain. People expect regret to come from disaster. Mine came from comfort, from things being good enough. I stayed where I was because it felt stable. I stayed quiet because I didn't want to disturb the peace. I stayed patient because patience felt safe. And safety? Oh, safety can be a beautiful lie. Because while you're being careful not to fall, you're also not moving forward. And years don't ask permission before they stack up. They just do. One day you look back and realize waiting became a habit. I used to believe that when the time was right, I'd feel it, like a signal, a push. But that's not how life works. The right time rarely announces itself. It whispers. And if you're too comfortable, you don't hear it. I waited for confidence before acting. Confidence waited for action before arriving. We were both standing still. I postponed decisions thinking clarity would come later. What came instead was age, not suddenly, gradually, quietly. I still remember thinking, I'll start next year. Next year sounded responsible. Next year sounded infinite. Turns out, next year's a moving target, and it doesn't wait for anyone. There's a lie we tell ourselves in midlife. We say, I still have time. And technically, that's true. But time isn't the same thing as chance. Chance shrinks faster than the calendar. Your energy changes. Your responsibilities grow. Your courage becomes more expensive. I didn't notice when decisions started costing more. I just felt more tired thinking about them. That's how time wins. Not by force, by fatigue. I kept thinking patience was discipline. What it really was avoidance dressed in wisdom. And avoidance doesn't stop consequences. It just delays meeting them. I remember watching younger people take risks I avoided. I told myself they were reckless. I told myself I was smarter. But secretly, I envied them. They were moving. I was thinking. They were failing and learning. I was waiting and explaining. And explanations feel very convincing when you're talking to yourself. That's another danger. You always believe your own reasons. I had reasons for everything. Why now wasn't right. Why later made more sense. Why patience would pay off. But time doesn't pay interest on waiting. It charges rent. And the longer you stay still, the higher the cost becomes. The strange thing is, nothing bad happened while I was waiting. That's what fooled me. No alarms, no warnings. Life didn't collapse. It just stayed the same. And sameness is comfortable. Until one day, comfort feels heavy. You wake up and realize you've been living on repeat. Same thoughts, same routines, same excuses. That's when regret starts whispering, not shouting, whispering. What if? What if you had started earlier? What if patience wasn't the virtue you thought it was? Those questions don't demand answers. They just sit with you, year after year. I used to think regret was about mistakes. It's not. Mistakes at least come with stories. Regret comes from empty pages, from things never tried, from conversations never had, from risks avoided so long they expired. There's a special kind of sadness in realizing you were capable, but inactive. I wasn't afraid of failure. I was afraid of disrupting stability. So I protected what I had and slowly lost what I could have become. That's the trade nobody warns you about. You don't lose dreams in one decision. You lose them by protecting comfort too carefully. If I'm honest, part of me thought patience made me superior, more mature, more controlled. But control is an illusion when time is involved. Time doesn't respect control, it respects momentum. The people who moved imperfectly ended up further than those who waited perfectly. I see that clearly now. Back then I thought I was being responsible. Now I see. I was postponing courage, and courage doesn't grow with age. It shrinks if you don't use it. Every year you wait, the first step feels heavier, not impossible, just heavier. Enough to keep you thinking instead of moving, enough to keep you patient, and patience, unchecked, becomes a prison. There's a moment, usually quiet, when you realize time didn't betray you. You just misunderstood it. Time never promised to wait. That promise came from inside you. I expected time to reward my patience. It never does. Time rewards movement, even clumsy movement, even scared movement. I wish someone had told me that earlier, not in a motivational way, in a serious way, like a warning. Because once you realize you've been waiting too long, you don't get the same starting line back. You start from where you are, with more weight, more doubt, more history. I'm not saying patience is bad. I'm saying patience without action is dangerous. There's a difference. Patience with direction is wisdom. Patience without movement is delay. I blurred that line for years. I thought standing still meant I was being careful. Turns out, I was just standing still. Life doesn't penalize you for resting. It penalizes you for avoiding growth. And growth is uncomfortable by nature. That's why we postpone it. That's why we rename fear as patience. It sounds better, feels better. But the bill still comes due. It always does. If you're listening to this and thinking, this sounds familiar, then listen carefully. Time is not waiting for you to feel ready. It never has. Readiness comes after you move, not before. I waited for certainty. Life rewards commitment, not certainty. I waited for the perfect moment. Perfect moments don't exist. They're created by imperfect action. The truth is, most of my regret could have been avoided by starting earlier, badly. Instead of starting later, carefully. Careful living feels safe. Until you realize safety isn't fulfillment, it's just survival with better excuses. I sometimes imagine going back, not to fix everything, just to start one thing sooner, one conversation, one risk, one honest decision. That would have changed the trajectory, but time doesn't allow rehearsals, only consequences. So all I can do now is tell you this. Waiting feels harmless because nothing breaks immediately. But life isn't lost in explosions. It's lost in erosion, tiny delays, polite excuses, well-reasoned postponements. They add up quietly. And one day, you realize patience didn't protect you. It just helped time pass more smoothly, without you. If I could leave you with one thing, it's this. Ask yourself what you're calling patience right now. Be honest. Is it really wisdom? Or is it fear wearing a calm face? Because time won't correct that mistake for you. It won't interrupt. It won't argue. It will just keep moving. And someday, you'll either be moving with it or watching it from behind. I thought I was being patient. I wasn't. I was running out of time. Don't make the same mistake quietly. If something matters, move, even slowly. Just don't stand still and call it wisdom.